Hi guys. So me and some other musicians are playing a charity gig on Saturday night in Arborfield in Berkshire. It's this Saturday coming. We're playing on behalf of Mind, the mental health charity. But this video is inspired by that, but not really about that. I'm not asking for your attendance. I'm not asking for you to donate or anything else. What I wanted to do was just, while it was top of my mind, maybe use this as a platform to maybe break a little bit of the embarrassment around mental health. So I want to talk honestly for a couple of minutes, if I can. You know, as someone who probably appears on social media to have a very positive, happy life, which I do. A lot of the time, you know, I think if people like me can maybe be a little bit more honest about and add a little bit more realism about maybe how we feel. The fact that, you know, life isn't all rosy, and you know that all of us are struggling on occasion. You know, maybe it will just help those of you out there maybe who are struggling with mental health issues, a bit embarrassed about coming forward and talk about it. Social media can be very has a very dangerous effect. It paints a very unrealistic picture of who we are. You know, and it gives everyone the impression that, you know, everyone else's lives are much better than yours. You know, and for a point of clarity, I don't think that me posting about pets or my children or my gigs is in any way glamorous and something that is aspired to. But you know, for good reason, people post the good stuff. They only share stuff that they're proud of or they're happy about, and they want other people to see. And I think, you know, if you constantly use the lens of social media to benchmark yourself against other people, then it's worrying and it's dangerous, and that's all I'm saying. I've suffered from mental health for on and off. I'm great at the moment. I'm really good at the moment. But I've suffered on and off for 10, 15 years. You know, and I'm happy to talk about it. It's not the first thing I mention to people, but I think it's important for people to know that other people have it and it's perfectly normal. You know, I've had periods where I've been really, really, really bad. You know, I've been in counselling for years. I've been on antidepressants. I've had numerous CBT things. You know, I've had pretty much every symptom you can have, I think, with anxiety and depression. You know, I've had ridiculous insomnia, horrible panic attacks, you know, anxiety, depression sometimes, IBS, stomach ulcers. You know, I've had pretty much everything that you would look up as a classic thing, and they're not all at once. You know, sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's anxiety, sometimes it's panic attacks, and the only thing I can liken it to, that if you've never had a panic attack, and I guess it's different for everybody else, but mine were, I was watching Stranger Things, and I don't know if you've seen it, but Will, one of the characters, gets sucked into the upside down, and it's just the whole world turns grey. You can't hear anything, you can't see anything. You know, I've literally had my vision disappear. I can't see more than a metre in front of my eyes, and it's straight away like that. You know, it's really bad. So, you know, the point is that everyone suffers, and I think we should be a little bit more normal about how we talk about it. You know, I'm really good at the moment, but you know, we don't normalise mental health right from the very top of society. you know. This week in Parliament, in Prime Minister's Question Times, Jeremy Corbyn asked Theresa May a question and challenged her as to why there are 5,000 fewer mental health nurses than 2010, than 8 years ago. And this isn't a political statement, I really couldn't care less who's in charge, but whoever's in charge, that in my opinion does a shit job of mental health and looking after it. The response that she gave was that actually in the last year 1,400 more people a day were accessing mental health services, which is great, I guess, in a way. It's also really worrying. If there's 5,000 less nurses and 1,400 people a day new accessing services, that's 500,000 people. That's 511,000. My maths is rubbish. That's the other thing I suffer with, is chronic maths problems, but that's for another video. That's a lot of people. And the fact is that, in 2012, the Health and Social Care Act in the UK embedded in law that mental health had parity of esteem with physical health. The fact is that the money simply hasn't followed. We're woefully under-resourced. And I believe, that while we have parity of esteem in law, we certainly don't seem to have it, parity between mental health and physical health in people's day-to-day vernacular. And I'm not having a go at anybody, I just don't think people view it as a serious thing, as something you can see and touch, which is still seen as some kind of dark art. People who suffer are somehow weaker than those who don't suffer, which is ridiculous. And I'm not having a go at anybody who hasn't suffered. I'm delighted for you. I'm pleased beyond belief for you. I wouldn't want you to suffer. And there's lots of people out there who've never had it, and are very sympathetic and very understanding. But there's still a lot of people out there who don't create an environment where people who have it feel comfortable about coming forward. And I think what we need to do is just have normal conversations about stuff. No one should feel like they have to talk about their mental health if they don't want to. I found this quite hard, to be honest, and it was my decision to do it, but I have found it hard. No one should be forced to do it, but the more normal we can make it, the better, because that helps everybody. Just be normal and not dickish about the whole thing, and it is normal. The stats are 1 in 4 people in the UK suffer from mental health issues on and off. That's normal. 1 in 4. That's the 1 in every house in the UK. That's normal. Sadly, suicide remains the most common cause of death for men in this country, aged 20 to 49. Sadly, that's normal. That's a common thing. That's pretty normal. So what can you do to help? Well, look out for each other. Try and spot people if people are struggling. I'm not going to give you advice as to how to beat it, because the first thing you should obviously do is visit a GP or a medical professional. And if you think someone's suffering, encourage them to seek medical advice. That's the most important thing. Don't listen to me about what to do. But in my experience, there are a couple of things you can do if you're not sure how to deal with someone with mental health issues. There's a simple thought process you can take, and imagine it's a physical thing, and it makes life a lot easier. If your friend Barry had a bad foot, just ask yourself a series of questions. Would Barry want us to talk to each other, in the peer group about his bad foot. Well, yeah, if he said he's happy for you to talk about it, then talk about it. It's sensible to talk about it. Would you encourage Barry to see a doctor about his bad foot? Yeah, of course you would. If it looks bad, would his bad foot be the first thing you think about when you think about Barry? No, don't define him by it. Don't call him Barry Badfoot. It's that's not what defines him about it. And there's simple things. Don't sign Barry up for a 10K run. Yeah, don't put him in situations where he's going to feel uncomfortable, but don't exclude him either. Don't make him feel isolated because he can't join in with certain things or doesn't want to join in with certain things. Invite him to the pub after the run. And just think about it in that sense. And it's easy. It's really, really easy if you think about it as a physical thing rather than a mental thing. We struggle because we can't see stuff, But would you look at someone who's got a bad foot and think that they're somehow weaker than you because they've got a bad foot? Probably not. It will be weird. It will be incredibly weird. And is there always a reason why someone's got a bad foot? Could it just creep up one day and some one day they're just suffering from it? It's really that simple. We overcomplicate stuff, make stuff too sensitive. It's the same thing. If I view it as a bit like tonsillitis. I've had tonsillitis a couple of times. I don't suffer from it all the time. Some people do. Some people suffer from it all the time. And they need medical help. Some people never suffer from it. Do you think that someone who suffers from tonsillitis or has tonsillitis is somehow weaker than you because they've got tonsillitis? No, you wouldn't. So it's exactly the same with mental health. So what can you do? The first thing, see a GP, see medical advice. The three things that have helped me. I mean, CBT has been the biggest thing, but outside of that, there's some. I was just thinking there's three things that have really, really helped me that are really easy. And you don't even need to be suffering from mental health to do this. They're actually quite fun. One was a book by a guy called Dale Carnegie, written in 1948, so nice and modern. Surprisingly brilliant. I turned to the book. It's called How to Stop Worrying and How to Start Living. And I bought it when I got recommended it by someone and read it when I was not in a good place at all, and that became like a Bible. I actually carried that book around with me everywhere I went for 18 months, in the car, in my laptop bag, by my bed. If I was going out, it was in my bag. Did I read it every day? No. I don't think I even finished the book, but it was like a crutch, and it's such an amazing read. It's really, really good read, and it's not preaching. It's just telling stories. It's just telling stories about people who've suffered, and you make up your own mind. But that is a good read, definitely worth checking out. It's called How to Stop Worrying and How to Start Living. It's by Dale Carnegie. He's also the guy who did How to Win Friends and Influence People, which I've not read, but he's one of the best-selling life books ever, so definitely worth doing. Another thing that I learned that was really, really helpful for me was the whole idea of circle of influence. So I used to worry about everything, things that were ridiculous and some things that were not ridiculous but I couldn't control. Am I going to lose my job? Right now, there's loads of things to worry about. What's going to happen with Brexit? Am I going to lose the house because the house price is going to go down? Are Russia going to invade? And my mind was just going overkill about everything. And the one of the biggest things that I learned was to understand what you could control and worry about only the things that you can control. And it's quite simple. You know, if you imagine this is you here, there are loads of things. I mean, that looks like an egg, but there's a load of things that, you know, you might be worried about up here. All things that could have a really bad impact on you and could be awful. But the worrying thing is you can't control any of these. Understanding what sits in your circle of influence and only worrying about these little things here is such an empowering thing. It takes all the stress out from can't do that in reverse, that's weird. It takes all the stress out from worrying about the other stuff that you can't influence. Just let it be. It will be what it will be. Worry about it when it gets into this middle circle. Don't worry about it in the meantime. Try it. It's really amazing. You know, I used to be up all night worrying about just everything. And that for me really helped. The third thing I was going to say, which is a bit of fun, and you should try it. People talk about a worry jar. So if things are worrying you, sometimes people say write them down, put them in a jar. It gets them out. It helps you lock it away. I think that there's probably some benefit in doing that, but I think that's a bit shit, to be honest. I think a much better thing to do, and do this anyway, doesn't matter if you're feeling anxious, make a positivity jar, make a happiness jar. Because one of the things that is a real problem when you're feeling bad is that you can't see the wood from the trees and you focus on the worst case scenario, you focus on the bad things, and you lose sight of all the little things during the day that give you pleasure. And writing them down, forcing you to write down every little thing in a day that gives you pleasure, and it could be, you know, what you'll find in the first couple of days is that you're writing down really menial stuff. You know, I had a nice jam on toast. I watched a programme today, it was fairly interesting. I didn't cry for an hour. You know, write it down, put it in the thing. Don't look at it necessarily again, just put it in the jar and force yourself to do that for a week, a month, 3 months if you can. What you'll find is that you start to see that jar filling up quite quick. Of all the things that are happy, that have made you smile, made you less bad, and that's far more powerful than seeing a jar full of shit that you're worried about, you know. And what you'll find, or what I found, is that after a couple of days, you start to find some big stuff to put in there, and the really chunky stuff, you know. And if you're having a bit bad, just tip it out, have a read of them. It's really powerful. And at the end of the day, you know, I'm a big believer that it is the little shitty things that actually are the best things. They're the things that make us happy every day. I had a nice cup of coffee. I had some nice toast. You know, my kids weren't dicks for an hour. I had a bath without someone shouting, "I need a poo." You know, like it's the small stuff that actually is what day to day makes you happy. You're not going to win the lottery every day, and being able to appreciate the nice stuff is a good thing to do. So try it. That's really it. That's all I wanted to say. I was going to do about 3-minute video. This is 19 minutes, so I waffled. But I just think we need to be more normal about how we talk about stuff. It's not a bad thing. Everyone, or lots of people, suffer from stuff at various points in time. And there's lots you can do to help. Not be a hindrance. Don't be the person that creates the environment for someone not to feel like they can talk about stuff. You know, and don't force people to talk about stuff if they don't want to. It's fine. You know, they might want to come out and just talk about other stuff because you're a distraction, and that's absolutely fine. It's simple. Just think of it as a physical thing. Try not to be a dick. Try and appreciate the little things in life. And, you know, the most important thing is if you spot anything that you're worried about in yourself or other people, or then, you know, seek medical help. That's the best advice I can get. I mean, if you want to ring Samaritans, they're always there. If you live in Berkshire, like I do in England, Talking Therapies is a service. I mean, you should probably go through the GP, but you can self refer yourself on their website. You don't even have to speak to anyone. As talkingtherapies.co.uk, and they'll help. There's loads of help. You just need to dial into it. And anyway, I hope this has helped. I've probably burnt my fish fingers. That's probably not something to go in my happiness jar. But I'm going to go and check. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.